Before we go, let's see, we have a few minutes before commercial. I think I'll save this question a little later because I want to be able to go deep a little bit more into this notion of decolonizing. But let me just have you set us up and define what you mean by decolonizing for our audience.
Ooh, yes. So my efforts in terms of decolonizing have primarily to do with letting go of the parts of our thinking, the parts of our practices, policies, initiatives, etc., that are largely, if not primarily, influenced and inspired by colonialism and imperialism, by practices and histories that do not benefit us. Audre Lorde was kind of infamous in saying that one cannot dismantle the master's house with the master's tools. I don't know that I agree 100% with that, but I think in the case, at least when it comes to race and racism and the sort of race-racism evasion, I think that there is some merit to that. And so those efforts I call decolonizing.
Excellent. With that, we're going to take a break and we'll be right back to continue the examination of what we need to do to decolonize race in America. We'll be right back. Welcome back. I'm your host, Pam McElvane, on The Inclusive Voice, with our special guest, Dr. Sheena Mason. Please feel free to call in with comments or questions at 773-763-9278. So we were just talking about what decolonizing means to Dr. Mason, and I like letting go of the old practices and history that prevents us and not beneficial for us moving forward. And so when you think about the events and the activities and the protests, I just want to ask, and putting into context, when you have organizations that are taking certain initiatives and certain events, and then they're protesting and leveraging the power of their voices, but they are inciting and inspiring, this emotion to do something, to help change. What advice and practices would you say when we do see these negative events occur that you would tell organizers that they should consider?
I think my biggest ask of as many people as possible, especially those who are organizing intently and trying to be strategic about the kinds of outcomes they're demanding and asking for at the same time, centers the idea that the language and the discourse we use in those moments in between time is not new. We've had countless civil rights movements across history, right? And the primary goal of all of those movements was reconstructing what it means to be racialized in this country and reconstructing it in a way that makes it more positive. But part of the biggest problems in that effort, besides the fact that it's gotten us, I think, as far as it can, is that we tend to sit in 2021 and feel like and argue, well, this generation is going to be the one who just finally cracks the code and successfully reconstructs race. And I wish I could say I was optimistic about that project, because I know history and I know that we've been constantly reconstructing race since before the beginning, right? So I would like to see more openness for people doing this kind of important and critical work to other philosophies of race outside of Reconstruction, And first and foremost, that requires a sort of acknowledgement that there are other alternatives to reconstructing race that could actually take us a lot further.
Oh, that's good. That's so good to hear that you plainly articulated what needs to happen. I had Dr. Steele on the show in January, the president and CEO of the Southern Christian Leadership Council, and he was just alluding to around Black Lives Matter and what he felt that. He said, in the civil rights, one thing Dr. King did was they trained the protesters, right? So even whatever the initiative was at that time, or initiatives, they were trained in terms of how to protest. So he was saying, so we need to take a lesson from history and move forward. So, what you said is to be open to others' philosophy around race. And I definitely will become more open and become a student, and am becoming a student of learning more. But I will tell you, I am one of those guilty in thinking of the optimism or having optimism that our next generation was going to have significant impact and change. But when I hear the realities that you bring forward, there's so much more work that has to be done simultaneously to really make a difference in doing that. So I thank you for that candid sharing.